Your mother wastes thousands on your tuition, and yet you still end up here, scrubbing my floors like a common servant," he sneered. "You were born to serve, not to think, and all the books in the world won't change the fact that you belong at the bottom of the ladder." Maya clenched her fists, feeling the weight of her mother's tired gaze from across the lobby. But as the Japanese delegation began to whisper in a rare dialect about Blackwood's hidden bankruptcy and his attempt to trap them in a fraudulent deal, she decided that silence was no longer an option. "If I were you, Mr. Tanaka, I wouldn't sign page 12 of that contract unless you want to inherit $100 million in undisclosed debt," Maya said in flawless, sophisticated Japanese, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. "Welcome to our story of hidden brilliance and the ultimate social reckoning. But before we witness how a janitor's daughter dismantled a CEO's empire with just her words, we want to know who's with us today. Which city or country are you watching from? We love seeing our community grow across the globe. And if you believe that intelligence and dignity have no social class, please subscribe to the channel right now and hit that like button to support Maya's incredible journey. Now let us step into the cold, glass towers of the corporate elite where a revolution is about to begin." The skyscraper was a monument to ego, a glass needle piercing the clouds, but for Maya and her mother Elena, it was a place of endless labor and invisible existence. Maya was a brilliant linguist, a woman who had spent her nights studying the delicate syntax of 7 different languages, while her days were consumed by the reality of a family debt she hadn't created. She worked the night shift alongside Elena, moving through the shadows of empty offices. While she polished mahogany desks, Maya listened to philosophy lectures in German and poetry in Mandarin through her headphones, her mind traveling to distant lands while her body remained tied to a bucket of soapy water. Elena always told her to keep her head down, to be a ghost in the machine, because in a world like Blackwood's, a poor black woman with an opinion was a target. But Maya knew that the words she carried in her head were more powerful than any board of directors. On the morning of the great merger, Maya had stayed late to help her mother finish the lobby before the international delegates arrived. Mr. Blackwood entered like a hurricane of arrogance, surrounded by cameras and sycophants. He didn't just ask her to move. He sought to crush her spirit in front of the world. He mocked her education, calling her a waste of space and a fraud who thought she was better than her station. He used her as a prop to prove his theory that some people are simply meant to be stepped on. He had no idea that the woman he was insulting was the only person in the room who truly understood the disaster that was about to unfold. The negotiations began in the grand conference room, and the tension was thick enough to suffocate. Blackwood's translator was out of his depth, failing to capture the nuances of the regional dialects used by the investors. The Japanese and Chinese partners were becoming increasingly suspicious, their whispers growing more frantic as they realized Blackwood was trying to rush the signing. They felt insulted by the poor communication and the lack of transparency. They began to speak in a private, high-level dialect, confident that no one in the room could follow their plan to walk away and blackball the company globally. Maya, who was discreetly changing a bin liner in the corner, heard every word. She saw the fear in her mother's eyes through the glass door. Elena knew that if this deal failed, the company would fold and their livelihood would vanish. Maya realized that saving the workers meant saving the man who had just spat on her name. She stepped forward, ignoring the security guards, and addressed Mr. Tanaka directly. Her transition from Japanese to Mandarin was seamless, her tone commanding and respectful. She didn't just translate. She mediated, exposing the flaws in the contract that Blackwood's own lawyers had hidden. The room fell into a deathly silence as the CEO's face turned from red to a ghostly translucent white. Blackwood tried to have her dragged out, screaming that she was a crazy janitor who didn't know her place. But Mr. Tanaka stood up and raised a hand. He told Blackwood that Maya was the only person in the room who had spoken the truth all morning. For the next hour, the janitor's daughter became the architect of the deal. She navigated complex legal terms in multiple languages, bridging the gap between 3 different cultures, and saving the company from a predatory collapse. She didn't do it for Blackwood. She did it for the hundreds of mothers like Elena who kept the building running. When the final papers were signed, the investors refused to deal with Blackwood ever again. They made it clear that their partnership was now tied to Maya. Mr. Tanaka looked at the disgraced CEO and told him that a man who cannot recognize genius standing right in front of him is a man who cannot be trusted with a global empire. Maya was offered a leadership role that would change her life forever, but her first act was to ensure every cleaning staff member received a living wage and the respect they deserved. She took off her work vest, handed it to Blackwood, and suggested he start practicing his scrubbing technique because he had a lot of mess to clean up. Maya walked out of that building with her mother, no longer a ghost, but a queen of her own making. If you found Maya's triumph as inspiring as we did, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories of justice and hidden power. Give this video a like and share it with someone who needs a reminder that their value isn't defined by their job title. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.